It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmick Voice. Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmick Voice. This is Season 5, Episode 10. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
Hey, what's happening?
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. Chris, how are you, sir?
What's up, Mick? Doing fantastic, dude. How about yourself?
Doing great. We're here, episode 10.
Yeah, man.
Already
episode 10,
in.
season 5.
Season 5, 2023. Another month has gone by. Time just keeps on slipping. Not in my future. It's slipping someplace else, not in my future. But I mean, it's slipping
downward.
It's downward.
You know what's funny? I made a delivery today to an Acme, and I was talking to one of the vendors. We were all kind of waiting around for the receiving guy to come back. There's the reason I'm getting to the story, and because we were talking about time, how fast it's going. He is one of the candy vendors, and he goes, I don't even know how we got talking about it, but his comment was, "Do you believe that Acme has already ordered their Halloween candy?" And I was like, for last year? And he was like, no, for this coming year, like 2023. I was like, seriously? He's like, yeah, normally they don't order it till like March, April. He was like, but they ordered it like a week ago or whatever it was, like 2 weeks ago, whatever. And I'm like, that's insane, man. He's like, because everybody's behind, vendors are behind.
Right.
So they got all their order in early. And I'm like, Jesus, it's not even spring yet. They're already ordering Halloween candy.
Yeah, listen, I had to stop in at the dollar store today. I picked up a couple things. I mean, besides having, literally during Christmas, they were putting out Valentine's Day stuff. But they already have all their gardening stuff out. I mean, for the summer. It's like crazy, They're always pushing the seasons. They're always pushing, because it's always about tomorrow. It's never about the moment, and it's never about yesterday, of course, right?
Nope.
But
never.
With things like you said, everything's kind of fallen behind. Everybody's still not making their numbers. Everybody's trying to get in before it's too late. It's crazy. And you know what's even funny is every year then they're putting in these big orders, but there's always excess every year.
Yeah,
so
always.
Yeah,
yep.
I mean, like, so for the next month, you're still going to have, like, Christmas candy at 50%, 75% off. Hey, can you just take this out with you, that kind of thing.
Throw a free one in the bag.
And I'm always there. Yeah, I'll take two. I'll take as many as you want. You know what I mean? And my wife goes, no. I go, did you just hear what he said? He said, take as many as you want. That means they're just going to throw them away. What do you care what they think of us? He just said, take as many as you want. So it's kind of the way I'm been brought up, but I don't know. You know what I mean? My wife has a little bit more couth. Not me. Not
Take
me.
it all.
Take it all.
Just dump the whole basket.
Yeah, I'll take it. You came in for $1 soda. You're leaving with $75 worth of candy. You got it, baby. You got it.
That's why you wear hoodies.
That's right.
Put everything you can fit in the hood.
Yeah. Those expiration dates, they mean nothing. Listen, if you remember years ago, even when we were kids and they were still talking about bomb shelters, remember that? Like when it was us against them, and they would say, get your canned goods, stock up on canned goods, because you can have them through, World War III and a nuclear holocaust. At least that's what they did in the day after.
That's right.
But now, like, get rid of your cans. Like, cans last like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month at tops. Are you kidding me? What happened to what happened to I could live off cans for 20 years?
Nope.
In a hole in my basement. But now you can't. You got to get rid of them cans. Get out of here.
Got to get rid of it.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, no way. Listen. Not that I drink milk. Like I stopped drinking milk, when I was a kid. Especially the milk today, that'll just, whatever. But unless that milk had chunks or smelled and not like they used it to revive a person that passed out, you drank it until it was gone. That's it.
We never looked at the date. We just always opened up the cap and smelled it. If it smelled bad, you didn't use it.
That's right. You didn't use it. You know what I'm saying? And you had to get past there was always that sour smell at the cap because that was just the stuff that, you had to get past it. Mom, taste this.
Yeah, that's right. You had to get past it. That's right. You had to get past it.
My mom would grab it. Let me see. But, yeah, that's all right. Didn't, it probably went sour in her stomach. She didn't care. Just drink it. We bought it. Drink it.
That's right. Drink it.
Because I remember back then, a gallon. Well, I mean, I remember a gallon being like $2.40. I remember having I was given because listen, 8-year-old kid, you're going to the AM PM market. You're walking by yourself with a little bit of money. Here's $3. You know what I mean? Get me a gallon of milk. That's it. And 35 cents for bread or whatever it was. I mean, you made out, and then there was like 20 cents. I can get a couple Bazooka Joes.
That's right.
Of course I'd go. If they gave you a 5 spot, you brought home a tasty cake. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And that's when they were big. And,
that was right.
Yeah.
And
you used to live behind that little
well, it was an AM PM, and then it was an
is that what it was?
It used to be an AM PM
okay.
years ago. Okay. Back in the 70s, AM PM, and then they changed over in the 80s to an A+.
I don't even think that thing's there anymore. I don't even know.
Oh no, there's something there.
There's something there.
But
that was always a gas station, though, right?
Yeah, it was always a gas station.
Yeah, it was always a gas station.
Yeah, man. So there you have it. Any big plans as the winter charges on? You got anything going on?
No, man. Just we're going. I told myself this year. I said we're going to buy concert tickets. Like we're just going. We're going to go to everything we can. Like let's just do it.
Like Acme.
That's right. Buy the tickets, man, and let's go. So we have some. We do have some shows coming up. Black Label Society and Anthrax coming. Bret Michaels coming this summer. We're going to, I think I was telling you, we're going to see Halloween in Maryland. I think that's in May. And then there's a couple of Skinner dates over the summer we're looking at. And so there's just a lot of stuff. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead because you were just asking about the next couple months.
That's all right. No, I get it.
Yeah, listen. No, just trying to get in as many shows, man. There's, I don't know if you've been following social media, but there's like all kinds of tours that were announced in the past couple of weeks. So, festivals and all the stuff. And just trying to do that. I do have some dates with Execution Order coming up, and I'm super excited about that. We're hitting the road for a little bit, doing the festival that you guys are also on. And so that's it, man. I'm just looking forward to that, brother. That's it.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy year. It's going to be busy. It's already busy.
It is going to be busy. Yeah, we're looking to get in the studio, so hopefully that will be very soon, and we want to try to get that started and at least get a couple tracks out. So
that's awesome.
That's coming.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
That's it. How about you? Do you have anything? I know you guys got the UK tour coming up.
Yeah, we got a
soon.
UK tour this year. We're going back. We're going to try to finish what we started. We're kind of excited. Still putting some of the finishing touches on that. We got a handful of, tri-state area shows, kind of like warming ourselves up, getting back into the swing, after being off during the holidays and stuff like that. We're going to be recording pretty much throughout the year. We got a new EP, extended EP coming out. We're still working on our full length, which, we should have wrapped up before this summer time. And and like you said, we're going to be on some of those festival shows with you. We're kind of excited about that. We're hitting, we'll be in Ohio and Delaware, Maryland, right? And some parts of PA. So I think it's like 4 dates, 5, and I think you got like 5 dates. So it's kind of exciting. It really is. It keeps you busy, awesome, right? Man. It keeps the schedule popping, Something,
man. Just, something to look forward to. Trying to, I hate to live for the, we talked about it many times, living for the next one, but I've decided to look at it a little bit differently and, just putting some things in place, man, just to, give you things to be excited about and, enjoy life.
Yeah, I normally don't book too far ahead because, you never know what's going to happen, right? This in the industry changes all the time. I mean, that's not, I have booked very far in advance if it's a big show, like if we were going to play the Whiskey or we start like with a tour. Some tours I've put together, it's taken 4 or 5 months. Other ones have taken 8 to 10 months. It all depends on what's involved, right? And that's like an ongoing thing, so you have some projection. But normally when you're doing your regional shows, I don't like going much further than 3 months at a time. But this year, I was looking, at the end of last year, I said to myself, let's just get some things on the schedule. This way we have them, right? And then it's less I got to worry about. I can focus, because I know I want to do a lot more recording this year. I got some projects I want to finish up. I'm doing some side projects as well, so I want to keep that time so I don't have to, give it up someplace else. Then I can work around it. I know what we have. Everyone has an idea of a schedule, because life gets in the way and there's things going on. And say, okay, we have this, but then we have some free time here. And like I said, I don't need to do 100 shows a year anymore. I don't even have to do 50 shows a year anymore. If I could figure out a way to do it and not perform anymore, but still get the same bang for the buck, maybe I would. I don't know, and that's gonna maybe that's gonna be some of the things that we talk about in this episode as I segue into it. So tonight's episode, see how I'm doing it? I'm becoming a real professional with this. That's 5 seasons in teaching you how to do something.
It's Russ the Boss.
Take it down. This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
So tonight's episode, we're going to talk about aging and hitless. Aging artists without a hit, or an aging artist who hasn't had a hit in a while. We may touch upon the big national acts, and we're going to also then talk about, of course, the indie and in the trench type of artist, what that means to them. Because as I told Chris when we were talking about this topic, I should be an expert at this. I am aging and hitless. I pretty much my entire career, so I should be able to talk volumes in it. So Chris, what do you think, man? When you hear that, aging and hitless, what does that mean to you?
It automatically think back to, we have talked about this many times on our show, in our private lives. And this is just, and I don't know where your thinking is, but when we say aging and hitless, I think about all those acts that are, most of them anyway, that are just touring, more like your bigger names, even your I hate to even say it, but like your B-level names from the 80s, like these guys are touring and not really putting out new material. They're just living off of what they used to do because they wouldn't have a hit now in 2023. So, when we say aging and hitless, that's where my mind goes. Just the big bands, your Motley Crues, your Bon Jovis, your, whoever is out there doing it and still doing it and still doing, even bands, like Night Ranger and, even your lower level bands that are, doing these festivals that, that they're not going to have the big hits that they had. Some of them, are okay with that. And then some of them, like Skid Row, for an example, puts out this amazing new record and they're not really worried about hits. I'm sure, would they love to have a hit like 18 in Life? I'm sure, but they're not looking for it. They're just, they want to keep producing new music and their loyal crowd follows because that new Skid Row album is really, really good. So when you say aging and hitless, that's immediately where my mind goes to. These, these aging artists that, just try to make a living off of their past because they may not want to or don't believe that they would put out something that's going to be a huge hit. Even if we are in a time, which is another question, if a band like, say, Motley Crue or Def Leppard could have another hit like Home Sweet Home or Pour Some Sugar on Me. Are we in a time right now where those bands wouldn't even be considered having a hit? Like, what would it, like, what would be a hit now in 2023? A lot of these artists come and go on the charts, and you and I are big chart people. I don't know how much stock a lot of people put in the charts, but you and I do, when, especially when we're talking about the show. So I don't know, man. I don't know if a band like that would have a hit today. So do they not do it? You know what I mean? Because they know they're not going to reach that level. I don't know.
So one of the things that I've always thought about is because you'll see artists that had this stellar point in their career, right? There was either a string of hits. I'm not going to necessarily talk about one hit wonders because that's a whole model and something else completely.
Yeah.
Usually that is industry controlled, right? But I'm going to talk about artists that had these hits, whether it was in their genre and then they came out of that genre and it crossed over and it became a bigger hit, right? Somebody that always struck me is like Rick James. Rick James had a string of hits, and Super Freak was gigantic. Even though there is talk still to this day that MTV avoided playing it because of the whole black artist thing at that time, but then it was changed due to Michael Jackson, and then everything changed from there, right? So unfortunately, he missed that window. He was penalized for whatever reason, but the song is still a big hit. And he went on to produce other acts and other artists. He helped propel early on Eddie Murphy's musical career, writing and producing that and appearing on the, his debut album and stuff. But then as time went on, you knew of him. They did interviews with him and all this kind of stuff, but he wasn't making hits. And I never could understand why that was, right? Even when VH1 did Behind the Music on Rick James, and I know he went through a spill where, drugs took over, and he was, he had someone captive in his house for whatever, him and his wife at the time, or whatever. So he kind of was like losing his marbles, so to speak. But then after that, I guess he got better or something. And again, I'm just using his as one example. I mean, there's many more. Why, given his previous musical track record and what the response was, why wouldn't anyone take another chance on him? Now, some people say, well, a lot of artists just kind of dry up. They lose that momentum, they lose that spark, they never seem to be able to write another hit, right? They've made bad movies about stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, somebody finds inspiration and they write the greatest hit of their, whatever.
Right.
But it always baffled me about some of these artists that are trying to still find a hit again. And some people say, well, they're writing better music now than they did then, so then why isn't it making the cut? Why isn't it making the grade? Why hasn't it crossed over? Why hasn't it been a sensation? And it's just always baffled me. And I think over the years, from reading stuff, reading between the lines, nowadays you can watch videos, people gonna give you like almost an editorial on it. I really do think a lot of it, and even that video that I shared with you the other day, a lot of it is still industry controlled, because they don't want aging people in the spotlight, because everything is geared to that younger audience, right? Because they're more impulsive to buy, they're willing to take the money and do this or go here, do that. Again, there has to be a bunch of different reasons. But I really do think that why a lot of these guys, we never hear from them again, or they're given the opportunity, is because the industry just kind of washes their hands of them. They can't even get an audience, almost like there's a blacklist, in a sense. I know I may be talking conspiracy theories, but it just doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't, and I have some reasons on that too, but why wouldn't a label that may or may not be struggling today grab an artist that had a good chunk of an audience share at one time and see if they could do... Like think about this. Rick Ashley, right? He had 2 big hits. He's still living off those 2 big hits. Why hasn't he... I mean, they've used him on commercials, and why hasn't he just released something new and see if the song charted again because of the popularity. 1, of memes, and then 2, it gets on commercials and people use it in all different things. The licensing opened up so people could use it. Why wouldn't they push? They do it with movies. Like all of a sudden, like something happens and a new movie comes out. Like Lethal Weapon 5 is going to come out. Like, it's a little late. I mean,
right.
Murtaugh was 50 supposed to be 50 in the first one, retiring. 40 years have passed. Dude should be dead.
Let me ask you a question, Mick. And then you're talking about Rick James real quick, and I don't want to sidetrack the conversation, but I scribbled it down as you were talking because I didn't want to forget. I'm not familiar with the issue with Rick James on MTV. What was the original issue?
He wasn't getting enough airplay on his video Super Freak at the time. And a lot of people had said because MTV, the execs at that time, were not really comfortable having black artists in a large format on the roster of scheduled videos per se.
Really?
And where that's not to say that they did not have them. They were just getting less airplay compared to
Adamant.
Adamant, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, which sometimes you'd be like, I don't get it, but then at the same time, people were getting it. So it was there was a huge British at the early on in MTV in the early days, tons because that second wave was hitting, right? So they were playing a lot of that. But anyway, the stats were that there were more white artists being played, as opposed to black artists. However, that all changed with Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. Like they actually went to bat, the record execs, and said, "Listen, you're either going to play this video, or we're pulling everything, every artist that we have." White, black, you name it, nothing's going to be on MTV.
And he was on, what, was he on CBS, Warner Brothers? He was Columbia, wasn't it? CBS?
Michael Jackson, CBS.
Yeah.
So
right?
they,
CBS,
at that time, that was that they were a huge player.
Can you imagine what MTV would have been without Michael Jackson?
Exactly.
Can you imagine what Michael Jackson would have been without MTV?
Yeah, well, listen, he had a good solid career before that because
no, he did, but you know when you put him and his talent and visual, I mean, you're hitting numbers across the board. I mean, you're hitting.
No, I agree with you. I mean, he changed video as well. We've talked about that before. You know, I mean, they became mini movies. Dancing became huge. Yeah. It wasn't just about hold this guitar and dance in front of the camera. It was about this. Yeah. A little bit more of theatrics, so to speak. And I mean, we talked about this before. It became more of a visual piece. Like artists had to bump up the way they looked.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Right? Because you only seen an artist very little. Now, you were seeing them all the time. We talked about that before. Early on, when MTV first came out, you seen some artists, and they are what they are, but maybe they were a little rough around the edges, right, look-wise. But then by the mid-'80s, when the production went up and everybody, all of a sudden, these guys looked, I mean, perfect example, and I was thinking about this the other day, about this particular topic, Bob Seger, right? Bob Seger was always this backwoods-looking kind of guy. Big, brawny, had an incredible voice. I mean, they rock and rolled, I get it. And, it was almost like wearing white T-shirts. But then... I forget, Shake Down, Break Down, bump up. That was for for the Eddie Murphy movie, right? Beverly Hills Cop or something like that.
Beverly Hills Cop. Yeah. Yep.
That video, he's got a big hat on. He's got a long trench coat, boots. I mean, he is, he's the Stetson man, right? Yeah. I mean, he looks top notch. So you've seen how important the visual piece became. And there's a guy too. Now, again. Is that because maybe he just decided, I don't need to do this anymore? I did it. You know what I mean?
Right. Been there, done that.
Yeah, been there, done that. He was the turn the page guy before there was a page to turn. You know what I mean? And again, I realize that people today, young people today, music listeners today, may not even understand that. Like Bob Seger, who's that? Isn't he some old guy with a beard? Wasn't he on Grizzly Adams? No, it's not the same guy.
Doesn't he do that Metallica song?
Yeah, doesn't he do that Metallica song?
So here's another thing I was thinking about when you were talking. Do you think more executives, record executives, no matter whether they're for your streaming services or your labels, do you think they push artists not necessarily to get a hit, but to get a viral hit? I.e., TikTok dances, 10 seconds on a Instagram reel. Like, do you think they push more for that than worrying about having a radio hit?
I think so. I do. I don't know that for sure. A hit's a hit, right? But I couldn't tell you what's on the radio because even my wife said the other day, man, all the pop stuff, it sounds exactly the same. Like it's almost undistinguishable. At least to an older ear, right? You bring up a fantastic point about this viral thing. Think about that guy Psy, right? The Gundam Style. That was a viral type hit. It was a hit.
Yep.
I mean, was it a fantastic song? I don't know. I guess you could dance to it. But it became memes. It became little segments. It became, just that little dance thing that he did, bobbleheads. I mean, and that became viral in itself. I mean, that, to me, was almost bigger than the song. That the guy is still... living off of that one, right?
Yeah, like he exceeded the song.
Yeah, he exceeded. Yeah, that brand thing exceeded the song. I think he's still doing stuff, but a lot of it sounds like it's the same thing. Like he's just trying to recapture. It's not going. Like that other one that came out of Asia, that Apple Pen or whatever it was called, that weird I'm not exactly sure what it was.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
And-
But that was a viral. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was viral too.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
created
yep,
this whole
yep.
thing just around the song, and it wasn't about the song anymore.
Right.
And
right.
I guess it could be debatable. Was the song good? Wasn't it good? I don't know. I'm not there to judge that. You're absolutely right. But according to some sources, somewhere in that mid 80s, they started pushing strictly the single model. That was it. That was what they want. I mean, there's an interview with Kip Winger that when they delivered their second album to the label, they were like, the label, and I'm not sure who he was on at the time. I can't remember. It was a big label. You're talking.
I think he was on
Warner Brothers.
He may have been on or Columbia. I was going to say, but
yeah. I mean, you may be right. I don't know. I appreciate Winger more now than I did back in the 80s. But anyway,
100%.
The label guy said, listen, you need to go back in and write 2 hits. Like, you need 2 hit songs. Like, you got to go back in. This album's not coming out as it is. And then you have to write 2 hit songs. And I think Hungry and that, I can't remember what the other one was off that album.
Because back then they had to have the rocking hit, and then they had the power. They had to have the power ballad, or vice versa.
Right, and they wanted to guarantee because that gave that album legs. They didn't even care if the other songs were good or not. They really didn't. It just became that single model, right? And now, I don't know. But listen, I do understand why record companies, let's just go with that, right? They want younger artists, right? They want younger artists, right? Because they're going to have longevity with that artist, right? If they sign a 72-year-old, that person could be dead tomorrow. Right? But you sign an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, you got maybe a good 5-year turnout. Yeah. Maybe you're lucky and you get 10. I mean, look, Miley Cyrus, like a workhorse those first few years, especially even when she got out of the Hannah Montana thing. Those 5 years after that, they were hammering her, then she disappeared. Think about, Lady Gaga comes out, and she, one hit after another, first album, second album, I don't know how many, and then all of a sudden, like, she disappeared. I know she didn't disappear. She did a lot of more adult contemporary things.
Yes.
Right, as she expanded her career, but she wasn't churning
but
out
the hits
pop
were
hits. Yeah, right?
Yeah, hits were gone. Even that movie she did with Bradley Cooper was it was a monster hit, but it wasn't like it was for a movie. It wasn't wasn't for a record. It wasn't for a solid solo
record. Yeah, I get it. Katy Perry, same thing. Man, those first 5 years were like, it was non-stop.
Yeah.
And then she disappeared. When was her last hit? I know she's still out there. She's still doing stuff. People still know who she is. But at the same time, that's just what I'm saying. But, they want longevity, right? They want somebody that they can get 5-10 years out of. They want to appeal to a younger audience. They want that younger crowd base. I understand, like we talked about, because they're impulsive. They're going to follow you, especially if you catch them. If you catch that audience around that 13, 14 mark, you got 4 or 5 good years until they move on to that next chapter in their lives, right?
Yep.
And then there is that belief that the labels can mold, and I'm going to use a bad word here, manipulate a younger artist because they're green.
Yeah.
Right? Because they may be brought in and they're developed. Listen, you do it our way or it's the highway. I understand that in the business sense. It's cutthroat, so that makes it harder for older artists. Not impossible, but it does make it much harder, and the numbers are that much lower. Since early 2000s, all those competition artists singing shows have become popular, and you'll see people of different age groups, but if you watch them, and I did watch them early on. I used to watch a number of them. That at the end, it's still all the younger people, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? It's still the younger people. Because even though it's a competition, sometimes it's not just the skill or the talent. It's the appeal. American Idol, right?
Yes.
They even left it up to the audience to vote at some point. So it became an appeal thing. And all those younger people... That was like, hey, give these people a shot. The older people, and by older, I mean people that were pushing 30, 32. To me, I wish I was 32.
You are listening to The Cosmick Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
So what do you think then? What is the difference between... Because the country genre, country music, they have guys that are charting out hits still to this day.
Well, yeah.
So what makes the country genre different than any other genre? I wonder.
Because I think with country, there's this heritage legacy, lineage type of sound and style that as you age, you become more of a cowboy, you become more of a cowgirl, right? You become, someone who's there's a season thing. And I think people that are country fans are country fans for life. Pop fans are finicky, right? It's listen, people that were listening to Hannah Montana probably aren't listening to Miley Cyrus right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
you,
agree.
You lose that. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Johnny Cash had hits after 65. Loretta Lynn did. Bob Dylan had hits after,
Johnny Cash found a whole new audience.
A whole new audience, right. So there is something to that. I think that's particular in that genre.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right? It's almost like it's a badge of honor that you're still there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where in pop, it's like, what's this old guy doing? Like, come on, act your age. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's a perfect example of what you said. People who, especially pop, pop music, hip hop is so.
It's
David
so now.
It's
so
yeah.
now.
Like David Roth would say, here today, gone later today. Like it was, it's in and it's out so quick. So those people that follow that perfect example, like you said, the people that watch the Hannah Montana show did not follow Miley Cyrus. They probably went to other music, if they even still listen to music as we consume music. You know what I mean? Because those kind of shows were made for a certain demographic.
Right.
And that demographic is older now. If they listen to Miley Cyrus, they may just be breaking out their Hannah Montana stuff for their kids or nieces or nephews.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just a little nostalgia. Right. It's a little nostalgia.
But I definitely understand what you're saying about the country music. I think that's interesting. I think it's an interesting take, which I think you're 100%. I think you hit it right on the head.
I mean, you'll have that too in the metal community. Like you'll have some of these old school guys that come out, but that's such a niche. It's still not the same as that in the country genre. Not at all. I think it's way different.
No, I don't. Yeah, well, even still, bro. Like I don't see bands like Metallica ever having another Enter Sandman. I don't see Judas Priest ever having another Breaking the Law, or you know what I mean? Like I don't see, Iron Maiden's never going to have another, we'll just say Run of the Hills or Wasted Years. I think those days are gone. They could write the greatest record on the planet, but I just don't think that there's, I just don't think it's going to happen because like you said, it's such a small, such a small niche of listeners. Metal isn't the thing really. With Stranger Things, Metallica had a little bit of a resurgence for that Master of Puppets, but they'll never have another Enter Sandman. No. I mean, that will just never happen. And it's,
if we're honest with ourselves, when metal was at the top of its game, say, right, and that could be debatable, but in top of its game where it was in the mainstream, where it was, it was like making everybody money. Honestly, the stuff that was really making it was still had a pop end to it. And that just helped propel a lot of these other bands because back in the 80s, it was a big umbrella.
Yeah.
Right? It was a big umbrella. You had your lighter bands, you had your super heavy bands, you had your bands in the middle, the bands that kind of waved in and out. But those bands, the ones that you're still hearing their music pop up on radio or, even in... listen, you think about it, like, right, you go on the Sirius XM radio, they have a whole station for hair metal. Then they have another substation for the deep cuts of hair metal. They don't have an all thrash station. They don't have an all death metal station.
No.
They have liquid metal, but man, that kind of fluctuates too, what they're putting on liquid metal.
Oh, 1,000%.
Right, and it ain't a lot of that heavier stuff. And then if you want some of the older stuff, then you go to Ozzy's Boneyard. Right. But again, that's just like what they call classic rock in the metal field now. So so there's still, you see what I mean? We're still being pushed a certain level of the music. But really, if we get serious and we're honest, a majority of the music that was all over MTV, because really, you didn't see the heavier stuff until Headbangers Ball, late at night.
Right, late at night.
Right? But all of it was still selling some more than others. So primarily, again, we've talked about like maybe your bigger bands, your nationals, but how does that pertain or relate to indie and the trench bands when most of us are aging and we've never had a hit? But we have a huge catalog of material. It doesn't mean that all of it's great, but it also doesn't mean that all of it's bad either. Some of indie material, in my opinion, that I've heard, and again, that's just a term. That doesn't mean, for the longest time, indie was this sentiment of not as good.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Kind of like, you have your pros, and then you have your minor leagues. And then you had your farm leagues under that. Yeah. Right? And then your little club teams and stuff. And so, like, with each one, there's a less and less of a quality, supposedly. But I don't believe that to be the case, because some of these indie artists, and there's always been indie artists. They were the counterculture, even in the 80s, that didn't want to kind of give up everything and have the record company give them money, take their rights, and then have to pay everything back. Like that video that I sent you, a lot of those indie artists from that late 80s time became the alternative artists in the 90s. Yeah. They were able to peak out, right?
Yep.
How does that relate to guys like us? Like, how do we look at it like that? I mean, because chances are, the reality of it is we're probably never going to break the Billboard Top 10. Like the real Billboard Top 10.
Right.
And as being metal artists, well, you know how that goes. It's still dominant. Anything that's metal, for the most part, is still being dominated by almost the same group of bands. They come out, right? Like, because the names carry weight. And these guys are still churning out music. Why not? Where some artists, they don't do anything, but the ones that are churning out, well, they're given to what their fans want, and people buy them. Like you said, Judas Priest comes out with a new album, it will sell, and it will do well. And the tour will do well. Will they have a hit, a radio hit? Will they have a hit anyway? I doubt it. But I'm sure stuff off of Firestarter, there were some songs that were, I guess, for this day and age, in the modern era, were considered bona fide hits.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Heading Out to the Highway or Screaming for Vengeance or, Turbo Lover or Locked In.
Right.
Probably some of them don't even have the numbers that Johnny B. Good had. If you think about it,
Probably right.
But listen, for us indie guys, here's what I think, right? We still have opportunity. And we've talked about this in a lot of the issues. We just create the opportunity ourselves. Once we decide what success is for us, and whatever that could be just, hey, I'm releasing music, I play a couple gigs, and I own everything. That means I can do whatever I want. I don't have to ask anybody for permission. That may be success in itself. Okay?
Yeah.
So much that we could do if we just don't look at it as like, well, I'm getting older and I haven't really made a hit. So if that's discouraging enough that you're not going to do anything, well, then maybe you weren't doing it for the right reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Listen, you could do it for whatever reason you want. I'm not saying that. But for long term, like if you're going to compete with younger people and the record companies are looking for longevity, well, if 5 years is considered longevity, or 10 years, and if you've been an indie artist for a number of years, you already got them beat.
Yeah.
You've already been through that. You're still writing, you're still releasing, you're still performing. So you already have that going in. Do you have a younger fan base? Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I know we don't. Our music is niche.
Yeah.
And our demographic is a bit older because we play a style of music that's modern, but it's rooted in classic traditional heavy metal. So already that's an older group already. Is that to say that we don't have younger fans? No. But do we have them in the same number as the other demographic? Well, no, we don't. It's outweighed. And there's more male than female, which was always the case with metal anyway.
Yeah.
We avoid manipulation because we're doing it ourselves. Or some of the things that we should consider is, if you're aging, which we all are, then you play to those strengths. Like, I'm not going to be jumping around and banging my head the same way as I did when I was in my 20s, because it hurts.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to be able to move my head
for 2 days.
For 2 days, maybe longer. So it's age appropriate. It's kind of like how you dress, right? I'm not going to be running around in spandex anymore. It just doesn't work like. Maybe if I was a younger band, I could get away with it. So you dress age appropriate. And I think that's one of the things, what you were trying to say earlier, is in the country genre with those artists, that they make these transitions and they age gracefully, both in their music
it's true.
and their look. And
Yeah, it's
their
true.
audience feels a connection because they're doing the same thing, right? They're aging with them.
It's a very good point.
togetherness. Where in pop,
That's a great point.
think about what pop's doing. Like, pop is created in a way to kind of that suspended animation, right? Like we're all Walt Disney. We're in some freezer block someplace. So they're trying to capture this essence of just this small segment in time. And then once that's passed, they create another segment. So it's like all these little bubbles floating around as segments in time.
Yeah.
Once the other one's done, it just floats away somewhere. Kind of like that, like the balloon at the end of Willy Wonka. It just floats around. Okay, so you're not a performing artist anymore. You get to a point and you go, listen, I love music, but performing could be a younger man, especially if you're heavily performing. That is a young man's game, for sure.
Yeah,
It can get tiring, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing everything yourself. But you could take other roles, right? You could write songs for other people. That's one of my goals. I want to write songs for other artists. My goal for years has been to be a songwriter, not just a guitar player. I'm a songwriter that just kind of plays guitar, which I'm grateful for because it's a good vehicle to get my message across. But I would like to do more writing for other artists, try my hand at different things. I mean, you could do other things too. You could be an engineer, right? A recording engineer. You could be a producer. You take some of that experience. That's the beauty of it, right? If you're acting your age,
Definitely.
you're taking some of that age and experience and you're putting it to good use, right? You could become a mentor, kind of like what you and I are doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't have to lug any equipment here. We're not breaking a sweat for two old men. We're just kind of blowharding into a microphone and hoping somebody listens.
Yeah, it's true.
And
Very
then,
true.
You could act like a label. You could create a label. You could create this little community where you help new artists, younger artists, make a go of their career. And a lot of guys have done that. After the Bee Gees kind of like took a hit in the late 70s, early 80s with, deemed the disco guys, even though they really weren't. And people kind of like, and then all of a sudden their sales just dropped. They went on and did behind the scenes stuff. They were writing songs for other people, including Andy Gibb and Barbra Streisand, and a lot of they were creating hits for everybody. They were producing and singing and doing backups, and most people, other artists did the same thing. Even when there was like a little lull in Lionel Richie's career, he was writing songs for other people. Kenny Rogers, right, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of that can be done until either you're going to ride the wave again, and then it's always like last man standing. The longer you're around, all of a sudden now you're appreciated because you represent a time that doesn't exist anymore, where a lot of people don't exist anymore.
Right.
You can even become an exec at a label. It always baffled me as to why somebody wouldn't take a chance on these aging artists that once had a hit. Now, I have to say that in more modern time, like Frontiers Records, the European record company, they've picked up on tons of those bands from the 80s and re-release some material, and their new material comes out on them. I can understand it. Some of it's like almost like fanboy stuff. Like, we have Stryper on here and we're releasing Winger and we're doing this and that. But that's the smart thing to do because you're giving these guys a second life and they're doing things. Like, you think about it, like Stryper never truly disappeared, but they did have some time off as Michael Sweet did other things. I think he was with Boston for a while.
Him and his brother, for a little bit.
Since they've been on that comeback trail, they're churning out quality music. I mean, it's like
they are.
It's actually better than I think that some of the stuff from the 80s that they were doing. Though some of that stuff is pretty intense, in my opinion, right? Whatever you feel about Stryper, I don't really care, but that's not what this is. But their last three albums have been just stellar stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're playing and they're still bringing in the numbers that way and, whatever.
Yep.
Are they all over MTV? I don't know, but if you're in the metal community, you see them on social media. You're seeing them being booked in festivals. They're doing their own tours and stuff like that. I think that some of that mentality has kind of rubbed off on some of the people maybe our age that have created labels and have gotten into the business on the backside and said, well, look, these guys are still doing something. Maybe we should do something. But there's plenty of other bands that are still touring that don't necessarily have a label or whatever. And they're just replaying a lot of this old stuff. So,
I do.
I think it was Steve Riley's version of LA Guns. I think it was last year or the tail end of the year before they released an LA Guns album. But then the other LA Guns, they're playing. They played the Whiskey, The Change of the New Year, and with Phil Lewis and Tracy Guns. I think that's really all who it is in the LA Guns. I don't know who else the other backing guys are. Well, I think Sean Duncan's playing drums. He's from Odin. If you remember them guys, right, back in the 80s.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nowadays, I think it's easier to find your place, a place, because there's more opportunity.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was necessarily the case. Say, like, when, as we started out the topic, talking about Rick James, I don't think that there was that same opportunity for him as there is right now for these artists, because there's so much indie type approach to even the nationals, right?
Yep.
Listen, man, if you're an independent artist, an in the trench artist, and you are aging and you're worried about a hit, well, I don't know what to tell you. You know, you either worry about it less, or you just keep doing what you're doing and just try to hone your craft and find your niche. If you're going to give up, that's one thing. But if you're going to keep pressing, you have longevity. You have exactly what these labels want. So if the label doesn't create it for you, create it for yourself. Chris and I have been doing that for a number of years. I'm a firm believer, man. If you could do it for yourself, and if you've listened to this podcast, we've talked about it over and over again. If you could do it for yourself, why not do it? Why not do it?
Yep, definitely.
Why give it to somebody else if you can avoid that?
Yep.
What do you think, buddy? Got anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so, bro. I don't think so.
All right, man. Just keep swinging for the fences. Something will happen, right? Remember, it's you fall down 7 times, you get up 8. And the reason you can get up on that 8th time is because you got up the 7 times before, right? Practice. Right. Practice makes perfect. If you like that episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmickvoice.com. Step into the Cosmic Verse and fill that void. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
Okay, folks, that will do it for another episode of The Cosmic Voice. Mick and I would like to say thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.